Alrighty, I'll call our special council meeting to order at 6:30. First item in front of us is the declaration of pecuniary interest. Does any member of council have a pecuniary interest in this in-camera session? Seeing none, I'll go look for a mover and seconder that in accordance with the Town of Penetanguishene Procedural Bylaw 2017-86, the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene move into an in-camera session to discuss a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality and labor relations or employee negotiations. Moved by Councillor Rawson, second by Councillor Marriott. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Okay, and we'll go into in-camera. It is. Right. Yet he says. All righty, Council, I'll call us back to order, and I'll need a mover and seconder that the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene rise from the in-camera session with a report. Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Rawson. All in favor of that motion? That is carried. Moving on to agenda item 4.1. I need a mover and seconder that option 1 be approved regarding the request to purchase the water lot in front of Bay Moorings. No, that's not what we're doing, though. The staff proceed as directed, Jeff, I guess is probably the better motion. That staff proceed as directed regarding the water lot in front of Bay Moorings Marina and the water lot in front of Beacon Bay Marina. Mover and seconder for that, please. Councillor LaRose, Councillor Mayotte. Final comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Move to the other one in front of us. Mover and seconder, be it resolved that the council accept a memorandum of agreement between the Town of Penetanguishene and the Canadian Union of Public Employees Union Local 2380 dated March 20, 2018 be hereby ratified. Mover and seconder for that one, please. Councillor Rawson, Councillor Mayotte. Final comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? That is carried. And now you can ask a question from the public if you had one. Please. Nobody yet. That's true. And negotiations are underway, so it was an in-camera session. So. Jeff?
Through your worship, I think it's fair to say that we're in discussions with an adjacent landowner.
There you go. So adjacent property owner. All right, and a motion to adjourn council at 6:57. Councillor Rawson, Councillor Levy, and all in favor of that. And we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Those are for the next one. All right, so I'll call council to order here. Welcome everybody here for joining us here tonight. We just had a couple of folks on the phone there, so what's happening is we've got 3 members of council out of town, so they're going to dial in for the meeting. So Stacey, go ahead.
Just a quick update. I did just hear from Councillor Saunders, and he is unable to participate from Mexico. So that's one limitation I guess we have, and I will let Councillor Lauder know that he can sign in when he's available.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so I'll get council to join us in the council commitment, please. We're grateful for the many gifts which have been bestowed upon Penetanguishene and its citizens, including the gifts of freedom, opportunity, and peace that we enjoy. May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. We ask that all in attendance and those who could not be here to assist us in promoting good government. May our decisions as members of council be enlightened, and may we be all strengthened in our awareness of our duties and responsibilities. May we be granted the wisdom, knowledge, will, and understanding to preserve the good fortune of the town for the benefit of all, and to make good laws and wise decisions. Thank you. Next item in front of us is item 3A, moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Rawson, that the agenda of the regular council meeting of March 28, 2018 be approved as presented. Any comments, questions on this agenda? Seeing none, I will ask council's permission to waive the rules of engagement in case Councillor Saunders does get in on the phone call, so we could actually have 3 of us. Is he not going to try, Stacey?
Just to clarify, we actually won't require the waiving of the rules because Councillor Saunders is unable to attend, so we will only have the two members.
So Brad's not going to attempt to...
He's not able to.
He headed to the bar.
I think so, maybe.
All righty. Well, in Mexico, there's cold cervezas, so I guess when in Rome, do what you should be doing. Okay, so then I'll ask for the approved agenda. All in favor? And that is carried. Agenda item number 4, declaration of pecuniary interest. Does any member of council have a pecuniary interest in tonight's session? Seeing none at this time. If you find yourself in that spot as we move along, let us know and we'll address it appropriately. On agenda item number 5, adoptions of minutes not already confirmed. We do have a move by Councillor Ross and second by the Deputy Mayor that the following minutes, council minutes, be confirmed as adopted as circulated. Special council meeting March 14th, 2018. Council meeting March 14, 2018. And the Committee of the Whole meeting March 14, 2018. Any comments, questions on these minutes, errors or omissions noted? And all in favor of that motion? And that is carried. Well, I see 5 hands up. I already know it's approved. But Councillor Leroux, you okay with the minutes? Okay. And Councillor Lauder, I think you just joined us, Mike? Okay, so Mike, we just adopted the minutes not already confirmed. Did you have any comments or questions on those ones? Okay. Move on to agenda item number 6, consent agenda. And we have none. So go on to item number 7. Confirmation of Committee of the Whole minutes. First one in front of us, moved by Councillor Mayotte, seconded by Councillor Levy, that the recommendations contained within Committee of the Whole report related to the Recreation and Community Services section be approved. Does anyone wish to pull any of those items for discussion? Mike and Doug, do you wish to pull any? Okay, then all in favor? Opposed, if any? Mike and Doug? Okay. Next one, I'll turn the chair over to the Deputy Mayor because I do want to pull 5B1.
Thank you, Your Worship. The recommendation contained within Committee of the Whole report related to Planning Development Services section be approved. And Your Worship, you wanted to pull
5B1, Queens Cove Court Subdivision.
5B1. Thank you. All those in favor of that?
The balance.
The balance, yes, thank you. Your Worship, since you asked to have that removed.
Thank
we
you.
will give
I'm
you
looking
the
for
floor.
a staff update from Andrea, then Jeff, then Brian. So Andrea, in terms of 2 weeks ago, you felt you weren't in a position to give council direction. Have you reconsidered, or are you under the spot, or where are you in your process?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Through you, 2 members of council. No, I stand by the recommendation that was given 2 weeks ago. I do feel that it's important that we continue to discuss this matter as well as overall development patterns in the town. And we have an engaged community. I think it would be valuable to use these people and get their input on where we are going to grow and develop.
Okay, thank you. And then Brian, in terms of the water issues, are we dealing with a quantity issue or a quality issue in that water that we're concerned with?
In terms of the development, the water balance study that was completed by the developer's consultant indicated that there would be no impact associated with the development on the water balance, meaning the amount of water being infiltrated back into the ground through the use of site controls, either soak-away pits or through the stormwater management facility itself. So from my perspective, from an engineering perspective, I don't see any concerns.
And I looked at our CEO, so we haven't weighed in on this. So from staff perspective, what is the staff's best position for council to consider, Jeff?
Through Your Worship, to piggyback off of what our Director of Planning and Community Development, as well as what our Director of Public Works has indicated, I think with these cases, they're often difficult. What I will say is I certainly support the staff recommendation to further consult given the information that staff has today as it pertains to the provincial policy statement. I guess probably ultimately an option that, and staff have discussed this on a few occasions leading up to the recommendation ultimately 2 weeks ago, but one avenue that probably is something that council could entertain and from a staff perspective wouldn't hurt, and probably we would suggest be prudent, would be to get some advice, be it professionally from, in addition to the staff recommendation, from a planning perspective, in addition to some legal advice as it pertains to the municipality's exposure moving forward with all options essentially that were on the table.
And so the options in front of us are threefold then, so approve, not approve, or negotiate, is that correct?
Through you, Your Worship, the options that were presented in the report were to approve, defeat, and further consult.
Okay. So I think I'd like to move then, Deputy Mayor, if I can get a second here, that we refer this back to staff. I know I'm not in a position to make my final determination on this, and I think we all need a little more guidance and education. So if I could ask for a seconder to refer this back to staff.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. So in terms of, sorry,
But we will have to call for a vote to see if it will go back.
debate, actually.
And debate. So we have a motion on the floor. Stacey, do you need to read the motion just to make sure?
Just for clarity for the members in the public and for those watching. So what Mayor Marshall is requesting is that the motion that passed at the last council meeting, he's asking that it was defeated. He's asking that go back to staff for them to provide additional information. It doesn't mean that the motion is being approved. He's saying sending it back to staff. So refer back to staff means our staff would be tasked with providing this council with additional information, new information, in terms of an updated report. It would still mean that no decision has been made.
Thank you for that clarification. I will ask for debate. Yes, Councillor Levy.
Thank you very much. Given the email that some of us didn't read until after the meeting 2 weeks ago, but it was alluded to here, the developer made it very, very clear that he was, through his counsel, that he was not interested in any further consultation, certainly not with the community. Given that, I see no reason to change my mind that we defeat this and take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments? Yes, Your Worship.
In terms of the letter, so the letter from the lawyer did say he wouldn't consult with the public. He didn't say he wouldn't continue to converse with council or our staff. So, and I'm still of the opinion that, from a legal perspective, I want to understand what our liabilities are in three scenarios. If we approve it, what's that mean? If we don't approve it, what does that mean? And if we alter it, because I have, as a council member, have not had a chance to ask the questions that I want to ask the developer in terms of that property and what it will look like and my concerns. I do know that other members of council have concerns in the length of the driveways, how Beck Boulevard would look like, the hill coming down from Drummond to Fox to make a access for the public for active transportation. Us owning the property behind the 12 lots that go up the hill, so we could actually protect those properties. So council's not had a chance to ask any questions, get educated, or really make a decision. So I'm not in favor or against this subdivision at this point in time. I'm just not in a position to make an intelligent decision on behalf of the town of council or town of Penetanguishene. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Further comments? I'm sorry, no comments. There will be an opportunity for later. Yes. Councillor Lado.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm in the same position. In fact, last week I actually spoke and I said I'm very much against the current situation and I'm not happy with what they propose, but at the same time, the consultants were at our our February 14th meeting. There was a great presentation, great in that very informative presentation, and our residents spoke out heavily against it. And I think it's a appropriate for us to listen to the developers and see if they have changed their minds or if they've made any concessions. Mainly from the standpoint of exactly as the mayor has just stated, if this does go forward, we as council should listen to everyone and make an informed decision. So at this point, I would like to see as much information as possible. As I said, right now I'm not happy, but if there are changes, maybe there is something that can be done. So I'm in favor of the referral back to staff.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Louder. Councillor LaRue, did you have comments that you wanted to make?
Yes, Madam Chair, I see no further development in my mind that would change my opinion, and so I would stand with my vote at the last meeting of I have no intentions of supporting this motion.
Thank you. If there's no further comment by councillors sitting at the table, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of... Yes, okay. Madam Clerk, could you read the motion?
Absolutely. So for clarity, the motion is that this item be referred back to staff. There is no motion on the floor. It's that the item as a whole be referred back to staff for more information. And that's the vote, and there would need to be a subsequent vote if that vote doesn't make through.
Okay, thank you. So are we prepared to vote, council? Yes. All those in favor of the motion that has been brought forward? Councillor Louder?
Favor?
Councillor LaRue?
Opposed.
All those opposed? Thank you. The motion fails. So, Madam Clerk, did you say that we would need to have another motion brought forward? The original.
That's right.
That is part of the planning and development. I don't have that right in front of me.
Just 5B1.
B1 from our planning. Could you read it, please?
Yeah, this is the motion, the original motion that passed in the last committee of the whole meeting, that the application for draft plan of subdivision file number PEN sub 2013-01 be refused for the property at 221 Fox Street, and that the application for zoning bylaw amendment ZA 8/2015 be refused for the property at 221 Fox Street.
Thank you. Do I have a mover? Councillor Rawson, second Councillor Levy. I will call for the vote if there's further discussion. Yes, Your Worship.
So I would certainly vote against this. So we're going to go to disapprove this in light of our staff recommendations that they're not in a position to make a determination in their professional opinions. Likelihood of this going to the OMB is high, and we're going to go to the OMB approving something without all the facts in front of us, putting ourselves in a situation where we're more than likely going to lose our OMB appeal, and taking the decision-making away from the residents of the town and the council of the town, because this now just becomes the OMB and the developer in this conversation. Everybody in this room is out. And then we haven't looked at the financial implications of all this. The OMB is going to be no less than $100,000, more likely like $250,000. The revenue side, the other side of that is, we're giving up about $1.5 million in development charges. We're giving up about $350,000 a year in taxation. This is a huge conversation that I think we're rushing through. So, again, I call for calm waters here to actually to defeat this motion and keep this conversation going, because it's a decision that's going to come back and bite us in the butt, and we're going to end up with a subdivision in our town that nobody in this room here, council and residents, are going to have any say or sway in. And that's not a good spot to put ourselves in. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Further comments? Seeing none, I will call for the vote.
I'd like a recorded vote, please.
Thank you.
Mayor Marshall's called for a recorded vote. And normally that would mean we'd ask you last, but since you called for it, we will be asking you first. Mayor Marshall?
Opposed?
Councillor Rawson?
In favor?
Councillor Leroux? Councillor LaRose?
In favor?
Councillor Mayette?
In favor?
Councillor Levy?
In favor?
Councillor Lauder?
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Dubois?
Opposed.
The motion is carried.
Thank you very much. Move on to 7A, moved by Councillor Roshan, seconded by Councillor Rose, that the recommendations contained within Committee of the Whole report related to Transportation and Environmental Services section be approved. Does anyone wish to pull any of these items for further discussion or debate? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Those are approved. Moving on to Finance and Corporate Services, moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Rawson, that the recommendations contained within Committee of the Whole report related to Finance and Corporate Services section be approved. Does anyone wish to pull any of these items for conversation or debate? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And that is carried. And we are, motions of which notice has been previously given. We have two in front of us. The first one in front of us, moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Levy. Whereas the Council voted on March 22nd, 2017 to proceed with the reconstruction of 2 tennis courts as originally planned in McGuire Park and voted on September 27, 2017, that the new pickleball courts be developed north of the bocce ball courts next to the playground. And whereas Council deems it necessary to reconsider these two decisions related to the construction of the 2 tennis courts at McGuire Park and the location of the proposed new development of pickleball courts. Therefore, be it resolved, the Council approve the reconsideration of decisions to reconstruct 2 tennis courts and a separate pickleball court in McGuire Park. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. As stated in the notice of motion, Council agreed to proceed with the reconstruction of the tennis court in McGuire Park and agreed that the new pickleball courts be developed in the park. Both of these items are part of our 2018 recreation capital budget at an expenditure of $245,000. The reconstruction is $110,000, standalone courts $135,000, and those are 2017, early spring 2017 costing. I would like to propose that the McGuire Park tennis court be reconstructed to accommodate 1 tennis court and 4 pickleball courts at a possible savings of $100,000. And not to forget that development charges would apply to the new pickleball courts, resulting in further savings. The savings could be redirected to other capital projects that we have put on hold. So, Your Worship, I'd like to move a motion, if I may. A motion to proceed with reconstruction.
We've already got the motion in front of us, Deputy Mayor.
But does it stipulate that?
Can't amend or change the notice of motion. It is what it is. Stacey?
That I understood that I...
Sorry, Deputy Mayor, just to add some clarity. So the motion that we're going to handle first is the decision that Council's making to decide whether or not they want to reconsider. If that decision is made, that would be an opportunity for you to raise your new motion. Sorry if I wasn't
jumped
clear
a
in
little
that
too
explanation.
quickly. Okay.
Being proactive. In terms of comments, questions on this reconsideration? Mike?
I'm very much in the reconsideration, fully supporting the Deputy Mayor with her new thoughts with respect to the potential reconsideration. So yes, I'm in favor of the reconsideration.
Any comments, questions? Councillor Rawson?
I'll speak now and I'll speak again if this motion passes. We've talked more about pickleball than we did Queen's Court. And the mayor wanted to go back to consultation, which we defeated just a minute ago. But we talked lots and lots about pickleball. It's sickening how much we talked about it. We talked about how much of a waste it is. We said we wanted to do this as a trial. It's passed. We passed the budget. Months ago, why we want to redo this? To save face, I'm going to pose a reconsideration.
Oh, sorry. I am running it. Sorry, Councillor Leroux?
Yes, Madam Chair, Councillor Lewis here. Actually, Madam Chair, I have been in discussions with our Director of Recreation and also with our Facilities Manager. I've been informed that they feel that the one tennis court, along with the two we already have at the Cenotaph, are adequate to meet our needs in tennis. So I kind of going along with the idea that I would support at this time the one tennis court and the 4 pickleball. Also realizing that if the pickleball doesn't take off, that court is easily changed back to a tennis court. So if someone wants to put that motion forward at some point in time here that we go with the one tennis court and the 4 pickleball, I will be supporting it.
Councillor Levy?
I'm a little mired in confusion here. We haven't voted on reconsideration?
We're waiting to reconsideration. They're telling us, I'm just accepting those as reason why they want to reconsider.
Okay. I support the one tennis court with the 4 pickleball to save a potential $100,000. Makes perfect sense. I think the community would be much happier with that than us spending that amount of money, and I particularly like the development charge aspect of additional savings. Thank you.
Councillor Miat?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll consider the one tennis court and 4 pickleball. Talking with other councillors and other people, I'd be happy with that.
Yes, I'm not in support of it. I think I'm with Councillor Ross, and we debated this, we kicked this around, we argued with each other, we dusted it up, we had input from our pickleball proponents, we had input from those who love tennis courts. For us to actually open this Pandora's box again, and our tennis court folks aren't in this room, our pickleball folks aren't in this room, we're having a conversation that they think's been put to bed, and they think they've had their input in, and council made a decision on, so I certainly won't vote in favor of this motion. For clarity, 2/3 means that 6 members of council have to vote in favor of this motion for it to be reconsidered. There's 8, it's still 6, because you can't be less than 66%. So 2/3 is actually 5.2, so we can't be less than that. So it has to be 6 members of 8 have to approve this. Final comments, questions before I call for the vote on this?
This is the vote to reconsider.
Vote to reconsider. So all in favor of reconsider, raise your hands. Okay, Doug and Mike in favor? Okay. And opposed? And that motion is carried. So now we can turn to the Deputy Mayor for your motion on this particular item.
Thank you, Your Worship. My motion would be to proceed with reconstruction of the tennis court in McGuire Park with half tennis court and 4 pickleball courts at a cost of approximately $135,000, and also that development charges would help with that costing and perhaps reduce it. So maybe that's too much in the motion, but yes, Madam Clerk.
I just put something a little more brief together for
Okay.
you in the
Great.
meantime. I just have that McGuire Park Tennis Court be reconstructed to accommodate 2 tennis courts and 4 pickleball courts.
Thank you.
1 tennis
One
court,
tennis
sorry,
court.
1 tennis court and 4 pickleball courts.
So I move that, and we need a seconder. Okay. Oh, Jerry's chairing the meeting, not me.
Well, you did get a seconder. I think the seconder is Councillor Leroux. Final comments, questions before I call for the vote? Councillor Rawson?
I never liked this from the minute. I don't understand what the rush is in this. A year ago when we started this, we said, let's do it as a trial. Everyone said, great idea. We said, let's do it James Keane Freely. Great idea. 6 weeks later, we're putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into a 6-week trial. Why can't we wait? What's the rush? This is silly. My question to the Director of Recreation. So we hear tonight that the 1 court at McGuire Park and the 2 at Memorial, I'd like to know what consultation has occurred with the tennis members of the community to ascertain that. What kind of numbers do we have to ascertain that? What kind of numbers do we have from pickleball to ascertain the need and warrant for this? How's the trial been going? What's the need for that? What's the rush and what's the delay on putting this off until budget 2019?
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Rawson. Lots of questions there. I will try and answer them all. So numbers, it's not possible to get specific numbers for tennis usage because we don't monitor. It's an open court. People come and use it when they wish. We have been able to confirm with park staff who are regularly providing maintenance in the park's facilities that there are many times throughout the day that the tennis facilities as they sit are not being used, the ones in Memorial Park. So we recognize that there are times that are unused, and tennis users could potentially switch the times that they wish to play tennis to access the courts. Additionally, since my last report to council, I did have a member of the tennis community approach me, as well as Councillor LaRue, with a suggestion that Maguire Park courts actually be reconstructed for 3 tennis courts and that we completely remove Memorial Park, which confirms for me from the tennis community that the town would suffice with 3 courts in the whole municipality. With respect to the pickleball registration, so our fall and winter programming, it was maxed out with numbers with respect to the number of people that we could accommodate in the gymnasium, and then we had drop-ins as well. The spring registration was down to 5 permanent registrants, but it was operated more of a drop-in center, so it's more difficult to monitor exactly what the participation was with that. So I don't know if I captured all of your questions.
Sorry, Councillor Ross, and then follow up, and then I'll go to Doug.
Just a follow-up. Sherry, appreciate that. So the 5 permanent people would be about a $20,000 expenditure on them for the capital. Last week you brought forward how busy Parks and Rec was, that we need more staff, but now you've got enough time to monitor the tennis activity. I find that hard to believe. Would it not do harm for us to evaluate 2018, see how that works, and then come in 2019 budget with some real numbers so we can put an informed decision instead of rushing this year?
Sorry, your question, Councillor Rawson, is for us to continue to monitor the indoor program and provide a follow-up, or you want us to
let's
monitor?
monitor the year. Let's monitor the outdoor activity there. You said the park staff's down there monitoring, but I don't know how you can monitor when you're telling us last week there's not enough hours for the park staff to maintain what we have. We need more staffing. So when you say they're down there and there's no one there, I don't know how credible that is when there's not enough time to cut the grass and do everything else. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Excuse me, Councillor Rawson, perhaps monitoring was an incorrect choice of word. Observation. While completing park maintenance, grass cutting, the staff have observed that there are times when the tennis courts are not being used.
So I think it was Councillor LaRue, and then the Deputy Mayor, and then Councillor Levy.
Oh, I just felt
No, Councillor LaRue first.
Councillor LaRue first. Councillor LaRue?
Yes, Madam Chair, in response to all of this, we've had the tennis courts on the back burner here for the last 3 years. It was in the budget last year. It didn't go anywhere. We have it in the budget again this year. And again, it's fine to say, well, let's give this a chance to monitor and monitor this, monitor that. That does not rectify the situation with the tennis courts. And I don't personally wish to see the tennis courts pushed off into 2019. So that if it means doing 1 court and 4 pickleball, then let's move on it. And the reason that we have to make a decision on it soon is that our Director of Recreation has to go forward with an RFP. And the longer we wait, then the longer we're going to get delayed, and then the possibilities of getting a decent contractor get shoved off. So I'm saying let's move forward with the 1 tennis court and the 4 pickleball. If the 4 pickleballs don't succeed, they readily become another tennis court.
Sorry, it was Deputy Mayor next, and then Councillor Levy. Sorry.
Oh, Your Worship, I just took exception to Councillor Rawson's comments about the monitoring, and I thank the Director for explaining exactly what was happening. It's when our workers are out there working, they certainly can see what's being used and what isn't. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Levy.
I just wanted to point out that, first of all, Councillor Ross, and this is coming at us from the political side, not the staff side. So if you want to direct questions, it should be to the deputy mayor, not to the staff person. This is her motion. And I just would also like to say I'm really not sure why you're so opposed to saving $100,000, because I think it's a pretty darn good plan. Thank you.
Councillor LaRose, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to remind council, just because it's on the tip of my tongue now, we got ourselves into this problem because we varied from what we decided to do. We decided we would wait the whole year, run the thing at Keating for a year, and make the call. But no, we had to rush. We had to go find some extra money. We had to pull some out of the DCs. Everybody gets on board. No, we didn't run it through the proper channels. We didn't go through the proper part of the budget, and look where we are now. Here we are again, hours and hours and hours for something that I believe, the way I heard it, 5 people have signed up for. So we're going to spend all this money. We're going to make some unhappy, some happy, but it's because we fell off the rails. If we had stuck to the plan, let it run for the year, put it in the budget, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. So just as a reminder, just like we did last week when we ran off the rails, everybody thought one thing was a great idea, it's going to come back to bite us very soon. So I would rather vote that we had stayed just like we did at budget and not do it this year at all, any of it. But if the compromise has to be, I can probably live with it, I guess.
Councillor Lauder?
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, I'd like to comment on the 1 year of trial because, in fact, if we look at our sessions, our recreational sessions, there are 3 sessions.
Sorry, Mike, we're getting off the rails here, so speak.
No, I'm not off the rail. My comment is with respect to the pickleball.
No, your comments in respect to the trial, and we're not talking about that. So the motion in front of us is 1 tennis court and 4 pickleball courts. That's the motion. So speak in favor or opposition to that, but let's keep the conversation on track.
I'm going to speak in favor of it because I believe the town has shown great respect for the pickleball and has shown a lot of favor in favor of pickleball. There have been a lot of players that have come out at the sessions that have been presented, and I feel that the money is well spent, and it's better spent. If we look at tennis and pickleball, all we've done is shown that there is excellent enthusiasm for pickleball. So for us to say 100% tennis and 0% pickleball is very, very unfair to a lot of machine.
Okay, that motion's not on the floor. So any other final comment on the motion that's in front of us? All right, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Deputy Mayor. So Councillor Lauder in favor?
In favor.
Councillor LaRue?
In favor.
Opposed? And that motion is carried. All right, move on to the next item in front of us, which is another notice of motion. Moved by Councillor LaRose, second by Councillor Rawson. Whereas Council voted on April 1st, 2015, that the Main Street design concepts from the section of Robert Street to Beck Boulevard retain status quo with enhancements, and further that the angle parking be maintained from Robert Street to Simcoe Street, and whereas Council deems it necessary to reconsider the decision related to the curb alignment on Main Street from Water Street to Wolf Street, therefore be it resolved that Council approve the reconsideration of decision related to the curb alignment decision of April the 1st, 2015. And again, similar situation as the previous one. 6 members of Council have to vote in favor of a reconsideration. So, Councillor Rose, do you want to speak to your motion, please?
Thank you, Worship. It was brought up to a number of members of council at our last Public Information Center that there was a parking spot missed at Main and Wolf. Yeah, I believe it's Wolf, yes. And so we checked into it. We had a quick look around. Everybody had a different opinion of what it was. That's why I brought it up today. And what I'm asking for is if we can just reinstitute that one single spot on Main Street, first one south of Brock Street.
You're looking for Stacy?
Sorry, Councillor sorry, Councillor LaRose to interrupt, but we do need to make sure that it all remains on the reasons to reconsider and not focus on what we're trying to change it to. The focus needs to, you can't talk about what it is that you want to go to until you decide to reconsider.
At the very beginning, as I said, everybody was under the impression that it was there, and it looks like it was missed.
Any other comments, questions? And certainly, I'm going to be opposed to this. We debated this long and hard. I remember, 2 years ago, we said we were going to, and Councillor Rose, if I look up the quote, it was asinine for us to reconsider it 2 years ago, and the town would look like fools, and we're just going to do this right up to the time of paving. We had Councillor LaRue in the paper saying our businesses had 57 meetings that they got to. If they didn't have their facts straight, the fault was there. So we've debated this again as council passionately, had dust-ups and, had arguments in the newspaper and on the radio and here in the chamber. So again, we made a decision. I recognize that the one spot is come up to play. I saw the complaint come in, but I mean, for us to reconsider for one spot would be totally unfair, because we had a council full of DIC members with Maureen Reed and Joanne Smith and others looking to talk to council about the curb alignments on the main street, and we actually turned them down cold, and that was our core of our downtown business owners. And so for one store owner to have a complaint about one parking spot in front of their particular facility, and for us to reconsider that is totally unfair to the whole conversation that's gone on here for the last 5 years. So I'm certainly against this motion. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Levy?
Yeah, I'm completely lost here. When I hear what Councillor LaRose just said, and when I read the reconsideration that we do stick with status quo from Robert Street to Beck Boulevard, they're two different things. Maybe you could clarify, Stacey?
Thank you, Councillor Levy. I can see where the confusion would be. So when Councillor Rose approached me looking to get direction on how to fix the problem that he had at hand, we discovered that this problem was lying within a very large decision of council. So this larger decision encompassed this one small decision that he wanted to change. So in order for us to bring it forward, really, council has to decide to crack open that large decision in order to change that little decision.
Bear with me, supplementary. So we made a decision April 1st, 2015, that Main Street, Robert Street to Beck Boulevard remains status quo with enhancements. So where'd all the bump outs come from? We didn't want those. We voted against them. Status quo means status quo. It means no curb alignment changes. We throw some benches and flowers in and Bob's your uncle. Why am I
definitely think that's a question worth answering, but I think that because we're kind of off the reasons for reconsideration, I do have procedural answers that I could explain to you how we ended up where we ended up, and why this is the motion that we need to reconsider, but I'm not sure if council wants that to be brought forward now, but based on our procedural bylaw, we do need to stick to reasons for reconsideration.
So I'm a little confused, Stacey, because our reason for consideration is we got approached by a business owner about a parking spot in front of their particular business. And so how does that become part of, that's what we're talking about here. So is that letter that went to all the council, or email requests that came in from other council members to discuss this, not part of the public conversation? Because that's what we're talking about here. So I don't want to have a conversation that's masking the conversation. The issue is, we've got one space in front of a particular store. That owner raised concerns with, I think, all the council, or at least many of council. And if that's what we're talking about, then let's talk about that. And so if that's the case, then I would argue that we defer this and we actually bring back the issue in front of council that's really the debate's about. So is it when...
Hello. Yeah. From my understanding, Madam Clerk, the motion put forward here, or whatever that's come forward, is to reconsider, which requires two-thirds council approval. So can we not take the vote on that issue and see if we get the majority to
guess the motion's in front of us, that's what we'll have to do. No, I agree, Councillor Roux, that's what we'll have to do. Any other final comments before I call for the vote to reconsider? Okay, all in favor of the reconsideration? Opposed? Okay, so that carried. Sorry. Okay, so now we move on to the matter at hand. So somebody wants to put a motion forward on this one? Dan?
Sure. I would, at this point, just rather stick to the motion of extending the parking spaces to the north, or the first one to the south of Brock Street.
Councillor Levy?
I'm going to argue we don't have to reconsider anything. We voted to keep the curb alignments as they were. How we got into the weeds here and started putting bumpies and bump outs and messing up the main street, I don't know. But we voted status quo. The motion is here in front of us. So, reconsidering, there's nothing to reconsider.
We approved the curb alignments block by block and debated heatedly block by block, and the motion passed in front of us. And so we checked, and I've personally checked the drawings that were presented to council, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times in front of council. And that curb alignment in that parking spot has been gone absent in all 4 conversations. And so council approved that, and I think if I recall the motion, Stacey, you might have that for me, was the curb alignment as adjusted.
The motion is accurate.
Oh,
The motion that...
with enhancements, sorry,
enhancements.
that's right.
Councillor Levy's absolutely right. The motion that passes exactly what's there. What did happen is the other.
Right, so the enhancements were reviewed block by block, including any nuances, and we had the crosswalk in front and Captain Ken's, and we blew that up, and we didn't want that. So this has been to council 4 times, not once, not twice, not 3 times, 4 times. And we passed it with the enhancements. So certainly, I think it's totally unfair to the rest of our businesses for this to proceed, and I think it's, anyways, it's totally unfair. Councillor Miot, you were next.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm like Councillor Levy, like, status quo is status quo. The way I understand it stays as it is. Now, I'm no engineer by all means. I'm not a draftsman. I don't know how to read blueprints. If it was on there, yes, I missed it, but I don't know how to read those things. And to me, status quo is status quo. It stays the way it is. So where these bumpers come out, I don't know. I know we fought with the one for the front of Captain's Can, I think it was. We fought that one. I know that one all about it, but I thought the other status quo stays as it is. So I've got a hard time with this. Status quo to status quo.
It's a big misconception, I believe, that a lot of council members thought status quo meant what was there is there. And staff's perspective, the way that it was explained to me, it's status quo from what was presented. And that's where the confusion is. And it's a typical bait and switch. It's for no reason. I mean, all that aside, we've taken away 18 parking spots, 6 with the last reconfiguration. And all I'm saying is it's 1. At that corner, do we need a 38.5-foot bump out? Or, because there's a new doctor's office there and gone in, would 1 more parking spot be appreciated? It wouldn't cost us anything. It would actually save us a couple of bucks. To me, it was silly to have a bench and a tree there right across from our park that we just spent millions of dollars on. It's a sidewalk. It's moving the curb 22 feet, people. This is like 15 minutes of nothing for nothing. But I do believe that the confusion part is when people left those meetings, they thought status quo meant status quo. You would think, but it doesn't.
Council should never vote unless they know what they're voting on. Stacey?
I just wanted to get clarification just so that we can, I know Councillor LaRose wants to move a motion, and I prepared something that I wanted to see if this is sort of where he was at. If council wanted to discuss further how we ended up that way, I believe that the CIO wanted to make comments, so not sure how you'd like to proceed. Would you like just kind of what I was thinking for the motion?
Please.
I had that, and hopefully our Director of Public Works could pipe up if I'm offside here, but that the curb alignment at the corner of Wolf and Main Street be maintained as it currently stands. would that
No.
be a direction that makes sense as it currently stands, meaning before it gets dug up? Is that what you're looking for, Councillor LaRose? Just this specific corner, the curb alignment at the corner of Wolf and Main, specifically and only? Okay, just to clarity so that council knew what they're voting on.
So if the motion is to be clear, we're talking about one parking space at Brock Street in Maine. One parking space at Brock Street in Maine, and that would be the one additional parking space north. Yeah, northeast. One additional parking space in the northeast corner of Brock and Maine. Does that sound right? No, but 5 years from now, we want people to know what it is the point. Stacy? So we're talking about one parking space, and we want to identify in the motion which parking space that is, with clarity.
So that the curb alignment at the corner of Brock Street and Main Street be maintained as currently stands to include the parking space. Just, yeah, that's it. We're kind of.
Brian, please.
Thank you, Worship. So to add clarity to the motion, do we want it so that the number of parking spaces is as is currently stands?
One more space.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah. As it exists today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably better.
Yep.
Jeff?
Through your worship, if I may, I just want to provide some clarity from a staff perspective. I think I did this in late February and early March with council via an email. Just wanted to be clear, there was never any ill intent here from a staff perspective. From staff's perspective, and this predates me, but I've had several conversations with the Director of Public Works. From staff's perspective, we were carrying out the wishes of council. I think to piggyback off what Councillor LaRose spoke to, the confusion lied in status quo with enhancements. And in further consultation with our staff, our design consultant, who was in the room on a few occasions as well, actually believed that the drawings that council has seen on numerous occasions and approved were actually carrying out the wishes of council. So I think there's some confusion along the way with respect to how the motion was worded. But I just wanted to be clear, there was never any ill intent from staff's perspective to have this go off the rails. From our perspective, we did fulfill what council's wishes were from the get-go, but I'm hearing now that wasn't the case from some members of council's perspective.
Certainly, as the mayor, I appreciate your apologies, but the fact of the matter is you don't own this one. This is a result of a business owner's complaint. It's not a result of council being frustrated with the motion. We had a business owner who said, I'm unhappy with the parking spot being removed, and he raised that concern, and we're having a conversation about an issue, but we're not having a conversation about the issue in front of us, and that's what's frustrating me, and it's unfair to our residents here, very much so. But nonetheless, that's where we're at. So we've got the motion fairly clear. Please.
I have moved by Councillor LaRose that the Main Street reconstruction curb alignment at the corner of Brock Street and Main Street be maintained as it exists today.
Okay. All in favor of that motion? Opposed? Mike, where are you? Doug? Okay, that is carried. Moving on to notice of motion. Does anybody have a notice of motion to bring forward? For the love of Pete, no. All right. Moving on to consideration of bylaws. Moved by Councillor Ross and second by the Deputy Mayor that the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene introduce the following bylaws: 2018-19, that bylaws be read a first time, deemed to be read a second time, a third time, and carried. Any comments or questions on this bylaw? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Mike and Doug? Thank you very much. Moving on to questions period from the media. We don't have any media. Questions periods from the public. Moving on to announcements and inquiries. Any member of council have an announcement? I have one. We did hang the flag, Canadian Cancer flag today. So it's actually Cancer Support Month. So we're flying the flag here in support of cancer. And I don't think anybody, probably in the town of Penetanguishene, doesn't have a family member, a friend, or an acquaintance that's suffering from this horrific disease. So we are proclaiming the month to be Cancer Support Month and have flown the flag as well. Yeah, moving on to agenda item number 13. Doug or Mike, do you have an announcement?
Question. Is there one of the mics, by chance, close to someone, a counselor or something, that has a cold? Hell, we're getting a lot of coughing in here. The other ones are not listening to it on their phones.
Okay, yeah, so I think between Councillor Rose and I, we're guilty coughers, and now Debbie's starting. So anyways, you're fortunate you're on the phone, Doug. So confirmation bylaw, moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Rawson, that confirmation bylaw 2018-20 be signed and sealed by the Mayor and Clerk. All in favor of that? And that is carried. And I'll look for a motion to adjourn at, looks like 7:54. Councillor Rawson, Councillor Levy, all in favor? And we are adjourned. We'll just take a couple minute break so I can get a glass of water. Thank you. Alrighty, I'll call us to order for our Committee of the Whole meeting. And the first item in front of us is, Dan and Doug? So the first item in front of us is the approval of the agenda, and we do want to move planning and development up into item number 4, so we can get to the discussion of the evening, if you will. So council's fine with moving P&D up front. So any comments or questions on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'll need a mover and seconder for it, please. Councilor LaRose, Councilor Rawson, all in favor? And that is carried. Doug and Mike, you're approving? And does any member of council have a pecuniary interest in tonight's session? Okay, seeing none at this time, let us know if you find yourself in that spot, and we can address it appropriately. So now we're going to go on to item number, which one are you, Deb? Item number 6, Section C, Planning and Development. I'll turn the chair over to Debbie. Councillor Levy.
Now you got me going. Okay. Under consent agenda for planning and development, we have no items. Oops. Under matters for consideration, community improvement plans and targeted incentive referral report, staff PD 1802, recommended action that this report be received for information. Director Betty, did you want to speak to this briefly?
Thank you, Councillor Levy. Through you to members of council, I will be brief on this. You do have a staff report in there. It generally outlines what community improvement plans are and how the municipalities could use incentives in order to stimulate a certain type of development or redevelopment. I tried to provide some context to it as to where we're going in the future with respect to our draft official plan, which is nearing completion, as well as the Planning and Development Department's 10-year capital plan, to show or to demonstrate how we potentially could develop community improvement plans, and through that conversation where future incentive programs could be created.
Thank you very much. Do I have a mover on this? Deputy Mayor Dubo, seconded by Councillor Rawson. Any further discussion? Councillor Rose.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't like the idea of this, as you people know. I don't think it's the right way to do most of those things. But if we are, I would rather just us not have a policy in place. And if the time comes where a plan comes together, that we would draft up a site-specific plan for a general area and go with it then. If not, I can just see this warping right back into where it was way back when. So,
thank you very much. Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, the guys on the phone, Mike? And Councillor LaRue? Thank you very much. Carried. Moving on to second unit's referral report, revised staff report PD 1821. Recommended action that this report be received for information and that any changes to the town zoning bylaw be deferred to the zoning bylaw update capital project in 2018. You see the staff report there that we wait on this. I was surprised to see this. I want to move on this as soon as possible, knowing that our official plan update could get bogged down. I'm not sure how much leeway I have, Your Worship, to continue in this vein since I'm chairing, but my opinion is we move on this right away. It helps us legalize more units. It provides more rental accommodations, and my suggestion would be 45% of total floor space be permitted for secondary suites. And I'd like to hear some comments from others on council about where they'd like to head on this. Councillor LaRose, did you have something to say on this?
sure, why not? 45%. 45% is better than what we had. I still believe it should be more, but I don't think that's an argument I'm going to win, so this is at least better. Gives people a chance. You have a decent-sized apartment. You have a decent-sized place. I think it would encourage more people to use their basements or above their garages or wherever that case may be. The way it is now, it's too small. It's too hard to convert your house if you wanted to make a secondary suite. So,
yes, Councillor LaRue.
Madam Chair, I'm of the same opinion. I've been pushing for years to increase the square footage of secondary units, and I found that with the bylaw that we had in square footage per unit was much too small, and I would certainly support 45%. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor LaRue. Question to you, if I may. Do you have another number in mind, keeping in mind we can't go above 49%? No? Okay. I'll keep asking for... Councillor LaRue?
What was the question?
She mentioned that if you had another number in mind, keeping in mind that we can't go above 49%.
Well, how about 49%? 49% sounds like a good number.
Sounds good to me, thank you. Anybody else have any questions, concerns? Okay. Oh, did I have a mover and a seconder? I didn't? Oh, my goodness. Yes, I did. No? Okay.
Sir, if I could say one thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Louder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just a little confused because I know the secondary suite, there's a lot involved with this, making this zoning bylaw change. So if we're looking for only one numeric increase in the size of the secondary as compared to the original, the main, then the 45 to 49 is absolutely easy. But I would suspect that this second suite referral report or the zoning bylaw should be all-encompassing and should look at all aspects. So that's the only thing I'm a little concerned with.
Thank you very much, Councillor Louder. I'm not quite sure I understood, but thank you anyway. Any further questions, comments on the secondary suites? No. Oh, I'm still looking for a mover. Councillor LaRose, and seconded by the Deputy Mayor? Oh, too late. Sorry, or I'm too late.
Just for clarity, Councillor Levy, are we moving and seconding the motion as it stands, or you're looking to amend it?
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm looking to amend it, that we move as soon as possible on the secondary suite. Okay, that's option 2. Is the Director of Planning looking at me? I'm ignoring her. Director?
Yes, thank you very much, Councillor Levy. Yes, it is option 2, but just to probably clarify that motion, the option 2 in the report talks about a secondary unit study. I think a appropriate motion would read that the town initiate a zoning bylaw amendment to increase the floor area for second or for accessory dwelling units to 49%.
To increase the
Floor area for second or accessory dwelling units.
units
To 49% of the total floor space.
I think I got it. Okay, so the motion that this report be received for information and that the town initiate a zoning bylaw amendment to increase the floor area for accessory dwelling units to 49% of the total floor space. And mover.
And the mover was Councillor LaRose, and the seconder was Councillor Dubo, or Deputy Mayor Dubo. You good? All those in favor? And carried. Thank you very much. Oh, on the phone. Thank you. Councillor LaRue? Thank you. Carried. Moving on, much to my delight, we are now going to deal with backyard chickens, staff report, BL 1802, recommended action that the town of Penetanguishene initiate a temporary use zoning bylaw amendment to permit backyard chickens in the urban area. Director Betty, would you like to speak to this, please?
Thank you very much, Councillor Levy. So this is a referral item as a result of some deputation that committee heard back last year. Staff have investigated other municipalities' programs with respect to backyard chickens, as well as examining our own bylaws to identify how, if the municipality chooses, could go ahead to permit backyard chickens. So in those documents, we would need to amend the town's zoning bylaw amendment because chickens are considered livestock and are farm use and only permitted in certain zones, as well as we'd need to amend our prohibited animals bylaw to remove chickens as being only permitted on a farm. All of those things could be done. However, it was our recommendation that we don't go for a full amendment to the zoning bylaw to permit them as a right, that we create a temporary use that would allow them in the urban area of the town, so most of our residential zones, and that through that process we could set the time period. We're recommending potentially 2 years as the trial for that temporary use, and that we would institute the program itself when we do the temporary use, so we'd consider what types of regulations are appropriate, the number of pilot project or properties that are allowed to have chickens, the number of chickens, size of chicken coops, things like that. That would all be flushed out through the public process for a temporary use. And when we looked at the timing, we could potentially have this in place for June or the end of June of this year, and it would run for 2 years itself. I do want to note that through a temporary use bylaw, this does not grandfather in the keeping of chickens at the end of it. So that's something to note. If the council does this, property owners have chickens at the end of the 2 years. If council does not extend the temporary use or does not continue to approve the temporary use, that any property owners that have chickens would then have to remove their chickens from their property. I want to make that clear so that we don't have people upset at the end of the project. So staff did talk about it quite significantly internally. We've talked to our animal control officer. We consulted OMAFRA about rules and things to keep in mind with keeping backyard chickens, and it's our recommendation that we try it.
Thank you very much. Do I have a mover for this? Councillor LaRue, and seconded by Councillor Mayette, LaRose, seconded by Councillor Mayette. And any discussion? Deputy Mayor.
Just one question. Would people have to write in and ask for consent to the municipality, or how would that work?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Dubois, so it would be an amendment. It would follow a process that's similar to a zoning process. We'd have a public meeting, we'd get public input, we'd identify the appropriate standards and rules with respect to the pilot program, and then once approved, or if approved, then we had suggested that the pilot program would be based on application first come, first serve. Perhaps for council's information, to give you an idea of the scale of what we think we expect. This town or city of Aurelia has had this project going, and they've had 2 people come in and apply for a backyard chicken. In my 3 years of being with the municipality, we've had 3 probably total come in and ask if they can keep chickens. I'm not saying there's not many more out there, but those were the only 3 that actually came forward to ask what the rules were about it. I don't anticipate a significant uptake to this, but we'll see through the process.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we will see further the recommendations of staff after they engage with the community and come back to us on things like lot size and distance from fences and the things that a neighborhood would be concerned about. So this just authorizes staff to go ahead and start the consultation and bring us back a report. And I think Andrea is hoping this would be done by summer. Yeah, so this is short term. This isn't going to take years. This is a couple of months here. Pardon me? Call for the vote? Dan needs to go home. All in favor? Carried. Sorry, Dan. Guys on the phone? LaRue? Louder? Okay.
Good stuff. All right, so go on to item number 4, Section A, Transportation and Environmental Services, and turn the chair over to Councillor LaRue. Oh, consent agenda, sorry, yeah. Sorry, referrals. Oh, Debbie, you have one more, sorry. Oh, yes, there it is.
37, Champlain Road, staff report PD 1822. Recommended action that the encroachment of a pylon sign 5.1 meters into the road allowance of Champlain Road by the property municipally known as 37 Champlain Road be approved, and that a bylaw be approved to enter into the encroachment agreement. Staff report PD 1822, re-encroachment agreement, 37 Champlain Road. Briefly, this is a sign for Beacon Bay and Marina that was on the town road allowance, and it was discovered after it was taken down for repairs that there had never been a formal encroachment agreement. This staff report recommends that we do enter into the encroachment agreement, and with Beacon Bay paying the cost associated with that. Do I have a mover? That would be Councillor Rawson, seconded by Councillor Mayette. And any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And carried. Fast enough for you, Dan? Thank you. Referrals to upcoming agenda and staff. Anybody have anything they would like to add, remove, or discuss on the referral? Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, I think we take off the backyard chickens.
That's a wonderful idea. And how about secondary suites? Take it off or leave it on until it's, I guess it's, yeah. Take it off. Well done. We cut our referrals in half. Hear that, Councillor Louder? We're superstars. Moving on. Question period from the media and the public. Sorry. Director?
Sorry, just wanted to note to the other referral item too. I think tonight's reports cover all three.
Oh, CIP, okay. We have no more referrals. We can pile them on next meeting. Question period from media and the public. Seeing none, I will hand this back to the mayor.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to item number 4, Section 8, Transportation and Environmental Services. And I'll turn the chair over to Councillor Rosalind, please.
Thank you, Worship. 4A is our consent agenda. It's recommended that the following consent agenda items have been given due consideration be received for information. We have the Midland Pantangashine Transit Ridership Monthly Update, Midland Pantangashine Transit Committee Minutes of December the 6th, 2017, Wastewater Division Annual Report of 2017, and the Ojibwe Landing Ecological and Human Health Risk Assessment Update. Any member wish to point these items for further discussion? Gentlemen on the phone? Seeing none. We'll have a mover. Councillor Mayat, second by Councillor LaRose. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. B is matters for consideration. There are none. And C is referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. It's recommended that the Transportation Environmental Service section endorse the following additional existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. Do any members have any additions or additions to these? Seeing none, we'll call for a mover. Councillor Rose, seconder. Mayor Marshall. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Question period for media and public. Jeff?
Mr. Chair, I think the Ojibwe Landing one can probably be removed because that's the report that came this evening on consent agenda.
Duly noted. Thank you. Back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Section 5, or Item 5, Section B, Recreation Community Services. And I'll turn the chair over to Councillor Mayat, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Recommendations of action that the following consent agenda item have been given due to consideration by receiving for information. Number 1 is the Safe Cycling Education Fund, which we all heard about. Does anybody wish to discuss this, or can I have a mover and a seconder? Okay, moved by Councillor Levy, seconded by Deputy Mayor Dubo. All in favor? Councillor LaRue? Councillor Louder? Thank you. Next item, matter for consideration, Ecology Garden Agreement, recommending for action that the draft agreement between the Corporation and Town of Penetanguishene and the Karma Project of the operation of the Ecology Garden be approved as outlining in Attachment 1, and that the clerk be given forward necessary bylaw to consider the approval. This is something we had talked about, and I think I'm going to hand this over to our Rec and Culture Manager. She's got a report on it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to Committee of the Whole. So I have had meetings with Erin Chappelle, operator of the Karma project, and as you know, she came to Committee of the Whole with a potential partner with Chickamick, looking to secure additional relationships, and unfortunately that did not come to fruition. She is continuing to look for additional partnerships and pursue grant opportunities to use the Ecology Garden to its best capacity to serve the community. So the ecology garden last year did provide produce to Rosewood as well as Chickamick. And I've provided a summary within my report of what the operations were in the garden last year. As Karma is looking to continue to secure an additional partner, we both agreed that a one-year contract would be suitable at this time. Karma has requested, however, that the town consider taking on the water costs for the operation of the garden, which we have estimated to be between $600 and $750, as well as a portable washroom rental, which should be about $700. They would continue to carry the insurance for the operations of the garden. So I'm recommending to council that we extend the relationship for another year, that we engage in the agreement to provide them the opportunity to bring partnerships on board.
Okay, so we have a report on it. Can we have a mover by the mayor, seconder? Yes, Councillor LaRue?
Mr. Chair, in the agreement itself, I basically wouldn't have a problem with an operator, a group or an operator doing or looking after the ecology garden for a year. What I do have a problem with in this agreement is the municipality having to support the Karma for funding, applications for funding. I don't think that the town should have to be committed for them to obtain funding from any group.
Okay, well, I think we're going to have to go back with what we've got on there. We've got a mover. We need a seconder for a discussion. Can we have a seconder? Councillor Levy? Okay, now we can have a discussion on it. Councillor Levy?
Yeah, what Councillor LaRue is referring to, and I would like to add my voice to this, in the agreement, the Ecology Garden Agreement draft, E states that the town agrees to provide letters of support for projects relating to the operation and the sustainability of the Karma project, and to enter into collaborative agreements when required with respect to any grant applications. I don't see that the town can actually tie their hands to comment about the sustainability of Karma project. Right now they seem to have no partners and really not much going on. I have no problem with them taking over the garden for one more year to see if it can be revived and they can develop new relationships. But for us to go to bat for them when we don't know what kind of performance we're going to see, I think is certainly not something I can support. And it sounds like Councillor LaRue is of the same mind. So I would not support this unless that particular condition is taken out.
Do we have any more discussion? Whoops. Okay, Councillor LaRose and Councillor Louder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've dealt with this for 2 or 3 years in a row now. Everything's been talk, everything's been hold on and wait, and then they come back and talk, and then hold on and wait. All of a sudden now we're going to be out $1,500 and we got to participate in all the stuff that Councillor Levy just alluded to. I would be in favor of defeating this motion and tasking the Recreation Department to go look for a new host for our ecology garden. And we would move, to me, we would be better to be doing that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Louder?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I personally look at this and I look at the termination of the agreement because that's one of the concepts that Sherry was trying to match to the curling agreement. And Karma has entitlement to terminate. I would like to see another item there similar to the A item whereby the town of Penetang-Sheen has the ability to terminate the agreement within the same 90-day time frame. I do agree also with both Councillor LaRue and Councillor Levy. I feel the town should not put up any sort of representation with respect to Karma, but I disagree with Councillor Rose in that I think we've got a project going on. They have been maintaining it very well and very nicely and encouraging our volunteers and our citizens doing good work. They can look, I'm in favor of them continuing on with the project.
Thank you, Councillor Lauder. Mr. Mayor?
So I'm with Councillor LaRue and Lauder and Levy. I'm fine with the contract. I'd remove that one clause as well. I'd just park that for now, let them go through. If they happen to get an application that looks favorable, then there's nothing wrong with them bringing that application to council's consideration at that time to say, hey, would you participate? So just because it's not in the contract doesn't mean the opportunity doesn't exist for them to knock on our door should some fortunate occurrence come about. So I'm in favor with that clause going out.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Deputy Mayor?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I certainly agree with all the comments that have been made, and if we get rid of number E, that would be good. And as far as the cost, even if we tried to find a new operator or had our own people take care of the ecology garden, that cost would be incurred. So that's really not an issue at this time, but I agree with my fellow councillors that E has to be removed.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Go ahead, Councillor Rowe.
As indicated earlier, Mr. Chair, I would not have a problem or an issue with Karma operating the ecology gardens for another year at the cost that was indicated for the water and the bathroom, $1,400. But that other clause must be removed.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. So I guess we have Councillor LaRose?
Thanks. Just one quick question. Do you guys have the $1,500 built into your budget for those items?
I'll turn that back to our manager.
Okay, thank you for your question. Water use is a year-to-year thing. It depends on how much it rains, how much water we use. When I looked at the parks, what's allocated to water in the parks budget, particularly the splash pad, I think there was over $10,000 that we didn't spend last year from the previous year. So if the usage was similar, even if there was greater use this year, I anticipate that there would be savings there to pay for that water bill. Does that answer your question?
With that?
And then the $700 for the rental of the washroom facilities, we have brought Enbridge on board to help pay for the operation of the amphitheater, and we traditionally rent. We have been last season rented porta potties to accommodate amphitheater programming, and in the contract with Enbridge, we have the ability to use their sponsorship to our discretion. So we have some leeway there with facility rentals for the toilets.
Go okay with that, Councillor LaRose?
So I'm taking it we didn't have it in the budget, and we're going to extract that from some leftover water funds from the splash pad and take a bathroom from the Enbridge amphitheater and use it there. Okay.
That sounds about right, Sherry? Okay, you happy with that, Councillor LaRose? Not. No, you're not. Okay. Okay, but the vote that we have to put through is 1 year contract with Karma and the washrooms and the water. Is that that's the one we're voting on? Go ahead, Jeff.
Mr. Chair, if I might, and I'm just kind of looking to our Director of Recreation here, the other piece I think that if I can ask councils or committee's indulgence on is the termination clause. I think it was raised that we probably should have something in there that is pretty standard in a lot of our agreements that gives the town the ability to terminate with 90 degrees notice, or, but if we can leave that with staff to come up with something and build that in to cover the municipality's backside, I would suggest that's probably something we should do, as I don't see it specifically sticking out at me in the agreement.
Go ahead, Councillor LaRue.
I would agree wholeheartedly with the CAO, and I think that should be looked at and added on.
So where are we procedurally?
Thank you, Councillor Mayette. So I suspect that we could approve the motion just by slightly amending it to say that the draft agreement between the corporation of Town of Penetanguishene, the Karma Project operations of the Ecology Garden be approved as outlined or as amended. So we're saying you've given direction to staff on the changes that you'd like to see. I think we've all heard that today, so we can make those changes. And then we will bring those changes forward in the form of a bylaw, at which time all of those items should be addressed.
I think I got it. So, all in favor for the motion? Councillor LaRue? Councillor Louder?
In favor?
Okay. Opposed? Carried. Okay, next item, special event policy. Recommendation for action that the special event policy as outlined in attachment 1 of the report be adopted by council, and that the recreation event coordinator, the director of recreation community center, and the chief administrating officer be given diligent authority to approve the third-party event application to host special event in the municipal-owned property. This is something that our manager put together, and I'm going to let her speak on that one there. Go ahead, Sherry.
Thank you, Councillor Mayette. So currently the town does not have a policy that addresses special events and the risks associated with hosting special events. So I have drafted one for committee's consideration. Obviously my team has provided feedback and reviewed, as well as senior team provided feedback on the various aspects of it that pertain to the role. So the idea of the policy is not to handcuff or limit our ability or third-party individuals who may be interested in hosting event. It's simply to make sure that areas of risk and liability are addressed. So items such as security, that building permits are acquired for tents, that security is acknowledged if there's alcohol being served, that sort of thing. So that's what the policy is about. The second piece of it is that traditionally the recreation and events coordinator has been the person to receive third-party inquiries to host an event, has been evaluating their operations plan, and giving the yay or nay for those events. Often they end up before council if there's something like a road closure that's involved, or they're asking for additional money to support the operation of their third-party event, and that would still occur. But we're looking to actually receive official delegated authority from council to provide that authority to the recreation and events coordinator, myself, and the CAO to approve those applications when they come forward.
Okay, so can I have a mover on this? Councillor Levy, a seconder? Madam Deputy Mayor? Okay, anybody want to discuss this, or? Go ahead, Councillor Rawson.
So my question is, if we use the urban side as an example, can you just tell me what the process would look like under this new policy if this is adopted? What approval level would be where to make that happen?
Okay, thank you for your question. So Urban Slide was actually something that we brought on for our event. Our event was the All Things Canadian event, and a part of that enhancement of the event was the Urban Slide. Much like Winterama, Winterama is our event, and we brought on the Demolition Derby to enhance the event. If we are accountable to the same clauses or issues identified in the policy, and the policy holds staff accountable to that. If we bring on someone like 365 Sports or Edge Motorsports to run an event, we would run that through our insurer, who makes recommendations about any additional policy requirements. So for example, with Edge Motorsports and 365, they're the ones who recommended, note, we need a 10 million liability coverage, naming the town as an additional insured. So we would still go through all of those processes. If it's a third party that's coming on to apply for an event, such as the Cupcake Festival, they would fill in that request to host an application. So basically it requires them to inform us how they are going to address each of those liabilities. And then if we have questions and we require clarity, we provide that the application, when it meets our needs, then we can, or we ensure that all the liability and the risks are managed, then we would approve the event. Unless, of course, there was additional ask for a road closure, like I said, or a financial request that they would come directly to council for.
Do we have any more discussion? Councillor LaRose.
On that vein, then, what's council's role in saying, yes, we want the Cupcake Festival as an example, or no, we don't? Where in the policy does that decision-making process come here, or are you recommending that it doesn't at all?
So that's not specifically identified in the policy. The policy is around setting some standards around managing liability and risk as it pertains to vendors and a variety of other things that I've identified. So council, traditionally, groups have not come to council, from what I understand, to approve events unless it requires some sort of exemption to bylaws. Before my time, I guess the watercross races perhaps would end up before council because of the noise concerns and that sort of thing. So
the watercross one didn't come across here, and we knew nothing about it until the day of the event. And that's what I want to stop from ever happening again. As a council member, it's our job to hear from the public on what kind of things they would like to see in the town and what they wouldn't. I wouldn't want you guys tasked with that job of making the decision where we've spent millions of dollars down to a waterfront park, and you guys think that, hey, you know what, if we drag the snowmobiles across here in the summer with studs and tear it up, that'd be cool. I would rather have us make that decision that that's acceptable. I would not be comfortable with you guys having that decision.
Do we have any more discussion, Mr. Mayor?
So I'll support it. I appreciate Councilor LaRosa saying at the end of the day, I don't think it's council's job to micromanage what kind of events go on here. We get into, I don't like cupcakes and I like butter tarts, or I don't like the Lions Club and I like the Legion. That's not a...
That's not what was being said.
Hold on. No, the mayor's got the floor.
So my point is, I don't want to, as a council member, be involved in who does what. I do, as a council member, want to be involved in things that, do change the zoning bylaw, do close a road, or does, Councilor Rawson used the urban slide where we tie up a road and block driveways for a considerable period of time. Absolutely, those should come to council, but the smaller ones, going out there, cupcakes, those type of things, I'm absolutely fine with the staff making those decisions.
Do we have any more discussion? Councillor LaRue, Councillor Louder, any discussion on this, or?
No, thank you. I'm very good.
No problem.
Okay, I guess I'll call for the vote. All in favor for this policy? Councillor LaRue? Councillor Louder? And opposed? It's passed. Okay, referral for upcoming agenda that the Rankin Community Center section endorse the following additional and existing referral upcoming agenda and staff. Any deletes or anything to add to it? Yep. Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah, just in the conversation today when we were talking about the seniors facility, one of the ones that CEO Jeff and I, Lisa and I were chatting with CEO Mark Aiken was in here today, and I don't know how the seniors facility came up, but he said as we entertain the seniors facility, don't forget that we've got Georgian Village and the other County Civco assets that you can look at for our use as well. So he thought of that, he shared that as a thought that we should consider, and I have to admit from a personal perspective that I didn't have that aha moment, so I only share that with staff as an FYI as you review options.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So anything else to add or anything to delete? Okay, yes, go ahead, CEO.
Mr. Chair, I think probably the Karma Ecology Garden report could come off.
Yes, that's one. Thank you, yes. Any more deletion? No. Any more additions? No. All in favor? Councillor LaRue? Councillor LaRue? Councillor Louder? Okay, pass. Question from the media and the public? Yes, nothing. And I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. We'll go on to item 7, section D, and Finance and Corporate Services. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Under our consent agenda, we have no items. Under matters for consideration, we have no items. So we just have our referrals, so that Finance and Corporate Services section endorse the following additional and existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Rawson, seconded by Councillor Mayette. And I think they are all, should stay engaged. So if there are no additions or deletions, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Question period from the media. And our public has left, so, Your Worship, I'll hand it back to you.
Okay, and I'll look for a motion to adjourn at 8:40. Councillor Rawson out of the gate quick early with that one. And a seconder?
Oh, I'll-
Really?
Jeez.
Councillor Mayotte, all in favor? Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.